Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. What's up, world?
Yo, 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 yo. Alrighty, so welcome to the Tuesday evening. It's very dark this Tuesday for daylight savings time, but the Tuesday evening CSRN video minutes. My name is Ruth Leonard. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am wearing leopard print earrings with a gray and white mock turtleneck, turtleneck, as well as my hair in braids, in bigger chunky braids.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Julian Mack. My preferred gender pronouns are he, him. I'm wearing a suit jacket with a shirt in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air graffiti writing that says "Stumbled and got humbled. Must do it recovery." From my good friend Joe. Shout out to Joe for the Must Do It Recovery merch. I'm here tonight because I think, as always, we should be active participants in our own survival. We want to thank you all for joining us as we give a brief recap of things that have happened this week and what's going on in the movement. Remember, there is no movement without movement, and there is no movement without the people. So we thank you for tuning in.
And also, I want to give a special shout out. Today we are working virtually, or not virtually, we're working from remote locations. Next week, you will see Brother Washington. Hopefully, he will make an appearance this week, as well as Jody. We're dealing with some construction and just moving around a couple of things, but we wanted to make sure that the message remained consistent, and we wanted to keep you all abreast of what's going on with the movement, as Julian stated. And to get us started, as we start all of our meetings, we have our mission statement.
Don't you ask for permission from the elder?
Okay, I'm not about to ask you for anything.
Aren't I the elder today?
I ain't about to ask you for nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead and read the stuff.
All right, this is our mission statement. We are the Community Solidarity Response Network of Toledo, formed on November 25th, 2014, the day after it was announced that the killer, a Ferguson, Missouri police officer, of Michael Brown, an unarmed teenager, would not be indicted. We bring awareness to the injustices experienced by Black men, women, and children who are disproportionately murdered, attacked, provoked, and harassed by law enforcement. Police brutality has to end. We bring awareness to the fact that most often police brutality goes without consequence and accountability. Police impunity has to end. We utilize the tactics of protest, civil disobedience, event disruption, and citizen advocacy to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. We facilitate progressive community-based events that help foster self-development, and we discuss measures to hold local leadership accountable to their sworn duties, be they politicians, clergy, law enforcement, educators, etc. We want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. For all lives to matter, Black lives must matter. And justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Cool beans. All righty. So to get us started, Julian, can you give us an update? I know that for the past couple of weeks and maybe even the past couple months, a lot of people have been asking me, what's going on with the election? Who are you voting for? How do you think it's going to go? What do you think about the issues? Julian, can you give us a recap just of what happened on Election Day and how you think some people did, and did all of your candidates win?
So I'm going to just start off at the top of the ticket, which is the mayoral race, and we'll kind of dissect the rest of the race as I get it. And I'm going off the top of the dome. I'm not looking at any results right in front of me. So for how good or bad this is how good or bad my memory is. So let's see. Rack them up. Let's play. All right. So at the top of the ticket, we have the mayoral race between the incumbent Mayor Wade Kapsicavage, former treasurer. He's been the mayor for the past 4 years. Against, I believe, 3-term mayor, former mayor Cardi Finkbeiner. So this was an interesting race, right? I'll be the first to say it. I think many young Black progressives were kind of put off by the fact that these are the two choices. But first, congratulations to Wade. Before I go negative, let's go positive. Congratulations to Wade Kapsicavage, who won a second term by a historic number, right? He won a record amount of. He won by a very large margin. Let's just put it that way. Ahead of Cardi Finkbeiner. I think that could be said. There's a lot of different reasons why that could be. One could be, the competition. A lot of people weren't satisfied with a 3-term mayor that had the job already. And I think is 82 years old. It's not ages.
40. That's what he said in his interview.
Yo, Cardi got the energy. Cardi does. He does give off young folks energy.
Cardi has more energy than I do at 35. So
yeah. And there's nothing like a campaign, I think, that gets Cardi excited. I think in that vein, I grew up with Cardi as mayor, and in that vein, I think that anybody who knows me knows I get excited around campaigns and elections. And it's taken everything in my power to fall back and try to not get excited as I focus on self-care. I have that same gene in me, right? Where I just love campaigns. I love elections. I know, obviously due to the voter turnout, a lot of people don't, right? But that's something that's just about me. And I hope I'm not, well, hopefully I live to 82, but if I'm fortunate enough to live that old, I don't aspire to be a candidate at that point in time in my life. At least that's what 37-year-old me has to say. But nonetheless, so, essentially there was the reason why many progressives and many movement people, many Black people were dissatisfied with these choices was because both of them were, frankly, centrist moderate candidates, right? Sometimes you don't realize what you don't have. And I think there was an expectation of people like me or you, Ruth, to just be excited and to vote for these candidates because they were there, when really many of, I think a lot of people disengaged with the process because, we cannot ignore that thousands of people took to the streets last summer for police reform, some for police abolition, and some for justice. And some see none of that as being delivered. Some see shades of gray, very light shades of gray of those promises being delivered. But nonetheless, both of those candidates kind of were not police reform candidates, right? Simply put, right? Cardi was walking around with police commanders hats, right? Like, my man, who is managing you, right? Like, all right. And as I people give me feedback all the time, right? I'm kind of getting out of my box mode, but people would say on one hand, he would talk about how he would give this tough on crime spiel about how he would be tough on crime like he was in the 90s. I was a kid in the 90s under his administration. I was in my 20s when he was mayor the second go around. right? It was not a comfortable time to be a Black man in Toledo during that time. So I think that he kind of banked on, there was a certain, I think we can't adequately have this conversation about the mayoral race by acting like the Black communities is monolithic, right? I think, unfortunately, like there's some lessons that need to be learned from this race. And the fact that it's not just the Black vote, but there are different segments and pockets of the Black vote. And I'm not even just talking about Democrat and Republican, but, because in Scotland, I think anytime, given the historic nature of Black folks being involved in politics, right, there was a Black man running. And I think that just because over the past 20 years, that's been kind of a trend, I don't think it's worth ignoring the historic nature of that, right?
The historic nature of Jan Scotland running?
Yeah, just a Black man running for office, running for mayor, right? Toledo's been around since 1835. I think maybe we've had 5 elections where a Black person has run for mayor. It's just they've all been in the past 20 years. You know what I mean?
I feel like I know at least 2 of the people.
Well, Jack Ford was the first one. I think in 2000. And then we had a run, right? We had Jack Ford, then we had Carty, then I think we had D. Michael Collins, and then we had Jack Ford, then we had Carty, then we had Mike Bell, who was a Black mayor. Then we had, but again, that a lot of the Black community didn't feel like he prioritized the Black community's interests, right? So then we had D. Michael Collins, who had a very short term, which led to then Paula Hicks Hudson, the first African-American woman mayor of Toledo. And then she was succeeded by our current mayor, Wade Kapsakavich. And then that leads us to the current race. All right. So just because since 2000, the past 21 years, right, what of the 5 mayors, 3 have been Black? That's saying something. We've had mayors since 1835 or 1837, excuse me, right? And only 3 have been Black. So, you also have to keep that in perspective there, right? And so that's why I say that it's still historic. I mean, I didn't vote for Jan Scotland. I'm not voting for any Black Republican, but it's still historic, right? He was very much, the Jan Scotland was very much like not in favor of drastic police reform, and so, it was really difficult to find a home for the vote when police reform is a main issue, right? Like I've worked on enough campaigns where I know that campaigns circle around, right? What do candidates look for? What are going to be the constituents' 3 main issues, right? And for me, right, police reform is a main issue for me, right? And there was not one candidate that I could trust to handle that issue properly. So
what I think, and I just want to just put a pin in that.
Go ahead. I'm gonna eat some pizza.
Okay, I just want to put a pin in that particular point because when Julian, you talk about okay, I'm going to take you off the screen. Police reform being a really central issue. I think that I'm going to push back a bit because I know that while police reform is a big issue, I feel like neither candidate did anything or said anything or had a particular position that really pushed the envelope on either side. I feel like they were 2 very run-of-the-mill centrist politicians, And I think that also, while there was a great margin of a win for Cardi or for Wade, I still think that the apathy in the community of not having a candidate that people really wanted to root for, even if it was outside of the Black community, I think that neither candidate said anything or did anything that made me say yes, outside of like my general belief of voting because it's my right, that made me want to really get out there and vote. I remember, and I do want us to move on to the city council race, but there were.
I still got a lot to say about this race. We could go on for a little bit.
Well, we don't have to.
We got anybody else in the green room? I mean,
let's see. I don't.
I've been quiet, so I got a lot to say.
So, and okay. So I can give you that platform, but I do want us to also talk about the mayor, or I'm sorry, not the mayor, the city council race as well.
Oh, we can get into that too.
But I don't. I remember talking about on the day before, at the official election day, there were two candidates who even now I can't remember, but there were two candidates who were running for city council who they didn't do anything to like make a splash outside of announcing that they were running. That made me either say an enthusiastic yes or a firm no. And I felt the same way about Cardi and Wade. Like, neither one of them, up until that debate on WTOL, neither one of them really made me say, oh yeah, this is the guy that I want. I just kind of went with basically how that WTOL debate turned out. That Wade was obviously the better choice.
And that is the inherent problem with this particular race and election, is that the candidates framed the issues and how they framed the issues. They framed the narrative, right? When essentially the narrative should be decided by the general public. Right. And I think that's why there was this disconnect that people could feel, but really couldn't verbalize. It was Cardi saying things are messed up. When I was mayor, things are better. Let's go back to when things are better. Right. And then Wade was basically saying, do you want to go backwards or do you want to go forward? Right. And that was essentially right. Those were deliberate messages, that both of them tried to get to resonate in voters' minds, right? And so, but the way elections should work, it should be the people, us, that set the narrative. And so it was a little backwards. And that's why there was that disconnection, I think.
See, I got to push back with you on that one of letting the people be in control of the narrative. I think allows for many different iterations of what that narrative is. I think that right now we're dealing in a time where fiction is louder than facts, where opinions are louder than truth. And I think that allowing the people to form their own narrative is now creating multiple narratives. I would much rather, and I think we're going to talk about this in a little bit, I would much rather have a candidate who is able to make their own narrative, but they're picking a side. They're not making the narrative of, I'm just the most centrist person. I'm the person that's going to see both sides. I'm the person that, while yes, I'm going to listen to everyone, I need a candidate, or I would want a candidate that says, yes, I can listen to both sides, but I'm going to call out nonsense if it's nonsense. Or yes, I'm going to be able to hear multiple opinions and hear multiple perspectives. But if it's a perspective that goes against what I believe, and if it's a perspective that infringes upon the rights of a group of people, I'm going to call it out. I know that Wade has spoken out. I know that when early in the election, or early a couple of years ago, there was a situation of the noose and I think somebody wrote the N-word on on like a clipboard inside of a city car. Like, I know that he's spoken out about that, but I still, he's not strong enough. He's not very forthcoming on any particular stances, to quote Hamilton. Like, I feel like he could talk himself into a circle out of a corner and not leave with a definitive statement of where he stands.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think the electorate chose. There was a stark difference in their leadership styles, right? So it came down to, it wasn't really about the issues. I think it was more about the people that were running. It was more about the candidates and their leadership styles, right? Did we want the passion of Cardi, right, or the pragmatic, methodic decision making of Wade? And the people chose the methodic decision making of slow, calculated decision making of Wade over
I did too.
over the passion of Cardi, right?
Yeah,
and that was essentially, and I think, while be the first to say, right, like police reform wasn't an issue. Wade has been fixing these streets, right? Like, and that was something that he made a priority. More than any other time in Toledo history, right? We've had more roads paved, and I think that kind of practical, something that you can see, touch, and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think, you can see where his leadership style isn't loud or braggadocious like Cardi, but it did get willed some results, right? Results that I think people wanted, as far as like construction and making sure we had, people wanted the roads fixed, and the roads are better now than they were.
They've been talking about the roads for the 8 years that I've lived here. Yeah. Like, it's been a thing. And so, yes, I do appreciate Wade in the pragmatic abilities that he has, but I think I don't know. It's still, it's something that I wish was a bit louder.
Yeah.
Areas, but
and like I said, it's a style.
Runs. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. The election came down to style over substance, right? Ideologically, all right, I would say they were similar, right? And as far as where Cardi and Wade both fell on the political spectrum, right? But it was just a matter of style, right? And what I think is frustrating as an activist and an organizer, right, since we're in this space, is that there really weren't large gaps and variations in ideology, right? We were choosing personality, style of leadership over the substance of what, over an ideological difference, right? Over issues-based differences, right? And that's what I think was so frustrating, right? And that's what I mean by, like, the candidates kind of set the tone, because they were so similar ideologically, right? But style-wise, it was just, I think also given the stress that I think the pandemic has everybody under, I think people just wanted predictable leadership as opposed to passion.
And I can definitely understand that. And this will be the last point that I think we'll have time to make before we move on to city council. I think that there's something worth noting when you talk about allowing the people to decide how the electorate is going to go, or deciding on the narrative. People had that opportunity when you had the primary, because if you look at the candidates who were running for mayor that were available to the public during the primary, that's where you see that huge swing.
Are you trying to hit a button, Ruth? Huh? You're trying to hit a button. You're trying to hit my button here. So I think that, so I got to say it, right? We have nobody but to be, we have to have a heart to heart here with the Black community. I think the choices ideologically that we were given to choose from is a direct result of failed leadership, top to bottom from the black community here in Toledo. Right, we have to do a better job at manifesting the type of leaders that will enact actual change. Right, neither of these candidates are from our community. Neither of these candidates, you know, I mean, there was a part of the black community that I think propped Cardi up, you know, a part of the community that Wade had angered, and good for them for giving Wade at least some competition, right? I think that was good and healthy, but nonetheless, Cardi isn't one of us, and you know what I mean. No matter how much you try to paint it's not it. You know what I mean? And I think over decades, what we've seen is those in the black leadership or black misleadership class, right, continue to clip the wings of new up and coming leadership, tell them to wait their turn, right, while those people have found different careers, while those people have gone in different directions, right? And then when you have something as devastating as what happened with the FBI, right, and many local leaders, you know what I mean, then all of a sudden, you know, people are looking at the bench, you know what I mean, and they aren't there, you know, and that's because time after time, year after year, you know, they've said, if you don't step in line with us, if you deviate from what we're doing, you're going to pay. And people have been like, yo, well, I'll just take my career and my life and go a different direction or move a different place. You know what I mean? I don't have to deal with this with y'all. And so, you know, I think there was a lot of people who I would have liked to see. I'm not even going to get into, you know, people who I think there are black people in our community that would have done better than Cardi, frankly, as a candidate. But we have to get really serious, and we have to have a conversation about, regardless of even the political ideologies, grooming leadership to be in political positions of power, how to run a campaign, how to have a campaign manager, all of these things, so that we aren't stuck with two of the same choices, but just, you know, different sauce. You know, one has hot sauce, one is bland, right? And essentially that's what we were given, right? And so, yeah, you know, that's what it was. It was the same sandwich, just one had hot sauce on it. You know, and that's the way I looked at the mayoral race. So hopefully, you know, for those out there, I don't know how many people are looking or listening or may get this, you know, elders, this is not an attack on any segment of our community, right? We need elders for guidance and leadership. I'm somebody that people consider a young leader, even though I'm 37, right? I still need guidance. I still need leadership. There are procedures and protocol on how to move and get things done that folks who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s know how to do, right? There's energy, right, that I don't always have, that I need from people who are, you know, 20 years younger than me, right? That have the ideas, that are in these streets in a different capacity than I am, right? And I think we need to, and then people who are our age, right, who are coming into their own, who are beginning to run this city, right? We're you know, people who are between 30 and 45 are really starting to run this city now, and you're not taking a back seat anymore. And so,
like, I know, like Will Lucas and Angela Lucas. I don't know if you saw today, but they are planning to open up the grocery store in the area. Yeah, it's going to be called Milk, and it is going to be, oh my gosh, I got to pull it up. They announced it today. They are basically redefining what grocery stores look like in the historic Vistula. I know it's supposed to be cashless, so it's going to be
Can I use my Bitcoin or?
I don't know if you can use your Bitcoin. But okay, let me pull it up.
Speaking of which, Will Lucas and Angela Lucas are two awesome leaders, I think, in Toledo, and I think Toledo's lucky to have them. He's also, I know they're also doing some work opening up like a private club.
Yep, Toll House, right? I don't want to misspeak. Can you tell us a little something about Toll House before we go to break? So,
I know it's like tech center. It's something for like young professionals, which I think is cool. Creating space where there isn't none, where there is none. Right.
And I unfortunately cannot find the post that was made about milk, but I can read it. I can't find it to pull it up. But
we'll have to invite them on sometime.
Oh yeah, definitely. His statement says, "I was born and raised in Toledo, and my entire life I've heard some version of the phrase, 'We're right on the verge of a great city if we can get X and Y done.' Honestly, I got tired of hearing that Toledo wasn't great and that our best was constantly ahead of us. Why isn't it ever now? I think we should be constantly progressing, and today's best is better than yesterday's best, and tomorrow's best is better than today's." So Angela and I committed that we weren't going to stand on the sidelines. We got in, first with Toll House, then a block or two over. By this time next year, we'll open Milk Market, an elevated market and deli, which will feature a market, micro coffee house / spirits bar, and deli-style sandwiches. We'll also stock our shelves with local and inspired products and have retail wine. The market will be 100% cashless. The design aesthetic I'm aiming for with this market is Old Town Italian Market meets New York City bodega. We're going to build the city we want to see. So I am super excited about that.
Goals.
The logo.
And let's uplift them, right? Like we talk, sometimes it can be so hard, right? When we talk activism and organizing, because so much of it, the work is focused on what's not there or what we want to see, creating a world that isn't there. We got to give credit and give those flowers to people who are doing the work and are creating the world we want to see right in front of us. So shout out to Will and Angela Lucas.
Oh, yeah.
Who always seem to be on the cutting edge of the future, right? Like, somebody needs to, I don't know who's going to replace Marcy Captor, but my first vote is Lucas for Lucas County. I was just
hey now. Look, I ain't mad at it.
I don't even think they want it. I don't even know if they want it, but they're busy with other endeavors. But look.
That's a move. Okay, so this is hopefully it's showing up. This is the logo. I absolutely love it. It says grocery, coffee, sandwiches, and spirits. It is I don't know what color this is. Like a dusty
red,
mauve with milk written in the middle, and then a classic glass bottle of milk. So yeah, I think that's super awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we are going to take a quick break, and we will come back with our thoughts and opinions on the city council race. So don't touch that dial. We will be right back.
So last year was hard. A curveball nobody saw coming, with something terrifying and heartbreaking seemingly every day coming out of left field. Isolation, frustration, loss. a city in suspension, a ballpark made empty, and the roaring of cheers lived as only echoes on the wind. You know, someone once said, oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. For there was no joy in Mudville. Well, we come from and work from the mud. Took that dirt and sand, melted down and built the glass. Even if we lose everything, we know how to make something special out of nothing. That is the heart of this place, this city, this people, this team. There's a beauty in the contradiction. That is why we cheer when rounding the diamond. That is why we cheer when waved home. After a year of silence, we are being waved home. That is the sound of joy after the storm fades. The lightning in the pitch, the thunder crack in the bat. The joy in Hinsville is back. Welcome home, Toledo.
Shout out to Hunter Prey, man, for that awesome poem. I saw you got a chance to do that at the Walleye opener, right? We had the first
Nice.
Walleye opener. Yep. So, you know, I know he's been doing poetry for a while. It's awesome to see him get acknowledged on a large city stage for that. That's awesome.
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have talked about the city council race, or I'm sorry, the mayoral race, now we're going to talk about city council. So let's look at the results.
Can I say something first before we get into that?
Yeah.
So as we ended our last segment, right? We talked about people stepping up and how there wasn't like a black candidate that we both wanted to vote for, you know, or why other people in the community didn't step up and run for mayor. You know, when we talk about the city council race, right, and I talk about the mental health, obviously I was gearing up for a very viable run at city council. And after my mental health breakdown and my relapse, I took a step back, and then I made the decision, and I said I would reevaluate things right around May 30th. And I was very close to running, but decided not to, and to err on the side of caution, right, and prioritizing my mental health as opposed to taking what I think would have been a quick risk, right? And so I can't help but feel like somebody may be watching this and be like, Julian, you're being hypocritical, right? As you're asking people to run, but then you didn't run for city council yourself. And I understand that point of view, but I think that there are, my situation was kind of extreme, and I will probably run again and give it a shot in the future. But in the meantime, I think that we did have a decent slate of candidates, right? But, you know, we'll just have to wait, I guess, and see. Ruth, you look like you want to ask me something.
I don't
say it. Ask it how you feel it.
Well, no, like I feel like you were talking about viable candidates running for mayor,
right?
And then you like shifted it to city council, and like that wasn't where your point was.
Well, because so like when I looked at the city council race, I saw candidates that were for police reform, right? I saw candidates that I could trust with a progressive agenda, right? I thought I would have liked for there to be more of them, I would have liked for them to be more of them in my age bracket, right? Like me. But so like when I say that, it was hard to sit back and watch. Let me just say plainly, right? Taking care of and prioritizing your mental health isn't always easy. This was hard for me to watch, right? I think when Brother Washington's here, there's usually a part where we talk about mental health, right? Sometimes sitting down and being still is hard, but it's what's best for your mental health. And it's what's best for you in the long run. When I honestly sat back and looked at how I will best be able to serve the city in the long term over my whole life, not just the next 4 years, I realized it was best to sit down, to grow, and to continue going to therapy. You know what I mean? Continuing to solidify some things in my personal life and build in my personal life so that I can pour from a full cup, not an empty one. Right. And I think that was a difficult choice, but leaders have to make difficult choices, and I am a leader, right? But that doesn't always mean leading from the front. Sometimes you can lead with your actions by sitting down.
All right.
So with the candidates we had, there were 12 candidates. Ruth, can you pull up the results? How about we start from the bottom, naming the candidates. So in last place was Larry Sykes, former city councilman, and who is soon to be on trial for his alleged involvement and use of campaign funds. Next up on that list, Ruth, can you go back down? I can't see. Okay, so yeah, Larry Sykes. So Larry Sykes, look, we're all innocent until proven guilty, right? So he has the right to run. He had the right to campaign. He had the right to run. Somebody asked me just yesterday, like, what do I have to do to run for office? Yo, just get some signatures and get on the ballot. You know what I mean? Even if you've got a record or are under investigation, you can still run, right? So, I mean, I kind of like the idea of that's democracy, right? Anybody can run, right? There are people in this list of 12 who have a record. There are people who, and still feel like they can serve. So I just wanted to stress that as an overarching theme when we look to the future of leadership. So Larry Sykes got 6,600 votes, 5% of the vote. Ron Murphy is 11th place. Ron Murphy was a Democrat. Ron Murphy is a Republican. Ran under Make America Great Again type thing. And he got 6% of the vote with 8,100 votes. Next was Mack Driscoll. Mack Driscoll, I actually really like Mack. Mack came to our Black Lives Matter City Council forum and really had some really progressive ideas. He was somebody I didn't know before this campaign, before this election cycle. He's an urban planner, right? And I was concerned that maybe he would be like a gentrifier, but he absolutely was not, right? He was somebody that had honest, fresh ideas on how to build up urban areas, right? And it was really refreshing. And I think, now that he has some name recognition out there, I think if he runs again, I think he'll do well. And he made a good first impression on a lot of people. But he was ninth with 8,500 votes. Next was a Republican by the name of Tim Ryan. Not the Tim Ryan who we may discuss later, but not the Tim Ryan that ran for president, who's the congressman from Ohio. This is a Republican Tim Ryan. I actually don't know anything about him because he didn't come to our forum. I didn't see any mailers from him. And yet somehow he still managed to get 8,600 votes. Good luck to you in the future. Next, we got Harvey Savage, 2 places out of the top 6, with 7%, 9,359 votes. Wow, I'm just looking at how close Harvey Savage. I believe this is his 2nd or 3rd time running. He's known for his work with the Martin Luther King Kitchen for the Poor. Ran as a Democrat, an unendorsed Democrat. He was one of the people on the slate that Cardi had a slate of candidates. He was one of those people on that slate. But yeah, two spots out of the top 6. Thank you, Harvey Savage, again for coming to our forum, and thank you for the work you do in the community. It helps a lot of Black people. I think you ran a great campaign, in my opinion, and hopefully, like when I see Harvey Savage, I think, yo, there's somebody that has some experience and some knowledge. I hope he passes that down to somebody younger, right? As we look to build the next generation of leaders, right? Just because you didn't win, there's still lessons and there's still valuable gems even in that loss. Next, we had Tony Dia, 1 spot out of the top 6. Tony Dia, who is the father of a slain police officer that was killed last year. Ran as a hardcore Republican. It's very tough on crime and very anti. This is a man that literally showed up to a protest against Black Lives Matter, right? So we dodged a catastrophe with him being on city council. I think we can all kind of breathe a sigh of relief there. He had a very well-funded campaign. I mean, aside from ideas, right, and what he stands for, he ran a very good campaign, right? He's somebody that's had a long record, right? And that goes to show, right? I say that not to dig at him, right, or his past, but I say that to say, yo, I know tons of brothers out here that got a record that would do great on city council, in my opinion, better on city council than Tony Dia, if they gave it a shot. And I know they care about our people, right? So keep that in mind. So now we have the top 6. These are people who are going to be on city council for the next 4 years. Coming in at the 6th spot, now this is a solid 3,000 votes more than the last person out, which was Dia. George Tarantu, who it appears here is listed as a Republican, who I actually thought was running as an independent, but is listed as a Republican. George Tarantu has been a city council person before. George Tarantu has worked with mayoral administrations before. I believe there was a large chunk of money that the Kapsakevich administration, I guess, just discovered is the word that's being used for it. But the person that would have been responsible for knowing where that money was would have been George Tarantu. So, I've talked to George Tarantu before, right? He seems like a nice person for a Republican, but you're gonna be looking for him to make up for that mistake, right? In the next and kind of reset his narrative as what his legacy will be for Toledo and what his legacy will be as a city council person. Ruth, can you please go back down? You moved the screen.
The screen moved. It was not me.
Okay. So yeah, next we have in the 5th spot, Tiffany Preston Whitman with 13,709 votes. This was Tiffany Preston Whitman. Tiffany Preston Whitman is a Black woman, right? one of the concerns that I think we all had as a community, I know it's something that I've vocalized pretty loudly, was that the fact that when the FBI indictment came down, we were worried that, we had worked so hard as a community to at least get some sort of representation on city council. Would we be able to keep that type of representation? Tiffany Preston Whitman was one of the 4 people that were appointed, 2 of the 2 that were at large. That shows that I think Judge Puffenberger did have some alignment with what the community actually wanted, right, when he picked these 4 people. Because the 2 that were up for election that he picked got reelected, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's that's his thinking and he picked quality people or candidates, or if there is an incumbent bias, and even though it was their first time running, they were already in the seat. People have a tendency to vote for people who are already in the seat. So congratulations, Tiffany Preston Whitman. We will be engaging with you. Expect to hear from us, and expect to stand up for the people.
Can I jump in?
Please.
All right.
Talking a lot.
Alrighty, so next up we have Sir Sandra Mcpherson. Sir Sandra Mcpherson is someone who was also appointed by Judge Puffenberger, and I believe that I have had concerns about Sir Sandra in regards to some of the votes that she made early on in her position, but I have come to realize that Sir Sandra is the type of woman that will speak up for herself. She is the type of woman that has no issues and no qualms about making sure that she completely understands what the votes mean and what she's voting for. And if she doesn't know something, she's not going to vote for it until she has a better understanding. So that is something that I can appreciate in a candidate and a current city council person. She received 10% of the vote with 14,372 votes. Michelle Grimm was the Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, there was, when Sandra initially got appointed, I remember her first press conference. I think somebody had got shot, and she was there, and I thought she seemed very green, right? But she's I love her honesty, right? What she doesn't know, she'll say she doesn't know, right? And, when you're talking about somebody that's going to hold a position for 4 years, that's something that's worth paying attention to, right? Is how well they adjust to their learning curve, right? I think that the council person that Sandra is today is, if not leaps and bounds, at least a bound, you know what I mean? Further than she was, right? I really like the growth I think I've seen with her as a council person, and her willingness to engage in conversations with things she may be less familiar with. Definitely. So that's good. It's also worth noting that both Tiffany Preston Whitman and Sandra Mcpherson were endorsed by the Lucas County Democratic Party. Go ahead, Ruth.
Then you have in third place, you have Dr. Michelle Grimm, who I believe is from California, but she decided to run for city council and made a splash, I think, with as much, if not more of, if not, I put her in the same category as Cardi when it comes to how much I heard her name. I think when it comes to social media, I think she ran a much better ground game than just a lot of the other candidates. I think that her rollout was a bit more precise and cohesive. I think that she did get a lot of flack for a lot of the things that she said, but in that same token that I was talking about picking a side, I feel like she picked a side. Do I agree with all of the things that she stated? I think when she had her 10-point plan for how to combat gun violence, I definitely had some concerns about some of the points that she made, but I also appreciated her vocalizing what her position was, to the point that we could have a conversation about it. And it wasn't just a blanketed, oh, we just need to do 1, 2, 3 and get rid of X, Y, and Z and everything will be fine. I think that her attention to detail was, I appreciated it. She also came out, in addition to Tiffany and Sir Sandra, for the candidates who won, Nick and Katie, I think all of them, with the exception of George Sarantu, were all in attendance at the Black Lives Matter forum that we hosted.
I got a hot take. Go ahead.
And her position on grocery stores will forever be the main reason why I voted for her. I think that there is a definite lack of grocery stores and attention to detail, or attention to access to fresh foods, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, that a lot of the other candidates kind of talk about whenever I bring it up, but she was one of the first candidates that I noticed to actively state that this was an important thing. She talked about food deserts. It was a conversation that I have only heard, with oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. Brittany. She works with UT in there. Brittany Jones. When you talk about the lack of access to food, or the access to foods that aren't healthy, I think that that's something that I appreciated Michelle for sticking up for. And go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, hot take. Michelle Grimm ran the best campaign out of all the city council candidates. She raised about you didn't.
I said that she had the best camp. Okay.
Yeah, we can run it back. But yeah, she raised the most money. She raised about $80,000, which is, for a city council candidate, is impressive, to say the least. And she ran the best campaign out of all the candidates. She knocked doors. She got her name out there. She had, of course, the gun plan, like Ruth mentioned. But yeah, it was an awesome, well-rounded campaign. And city council keeps a doctor, someone with their doctorate, right? Dr. Cecilia Adams, who has served our community for quite some time on the school board and on city council, will be leaving. And when I always used to think of who's leaving, who's coming, and I look at it like we get to keep a doctor. We get to keep a doctor on city council, so that's cool. Congrats to Michelle Grimm, Dr. Grimm.
Yes, and Dr. Grimm had 15,388 votes, with 11% of the total votes. And second place, so we have my personal favorite, Nicholas Kilmives. Nick Comives with 11% of the vote, 15,450 votes for the city of Toledo. Nick Comives is maintaining his seat on city council at large. Nick has done some great work over the past few years on city council. I think that he is going to continue to do that good work. I look forward to continuing to partner with Nick on different initiatives to ensure that the city of Toledo does not lose the candidate who I think has been the most out and proud about saying Black Lives Matter out of all of the candidates, I think, in city council, in chambers, in public, on the record. I've heard it more out of him than any of the other candidates. And so I do appreciate that from Nick. That's not to say that the other candidates don't believe it. I'm just saying he is the most vocal about it.
You never have to question whether he does or doesn't, which can't be said for every candidate. or every person that's held the seat, whether they're white or black or whatever. You know where he stands in regards to our movement, and he showed up and held forums. He showed up, and I mean, he's doing work, right? That actually, I mean, the Right to Know Act, right? Some of the legislation, right, that Mayor Wade kind of talked about, got passed, was authored by Nick Comine. So we thank you for that. And can I just say, as a organizer, right? And as I just got done talking about Michelle Grimm and how she raised the most money, pound for pound, for the amount of money that like Nick spent on the campaign, and I mean, he did quite impressive with votes, right? There's an article from the Blade that has exact numbers, right, of what each candidate raised and what they spent per quarter on the campaign. And for somebody who has, I think, the potential to raise a lot more money and has the potential to could have maybe spend more, he relied on his record, right? Which is something that he relied on people knowing him. He relied on his personal relationships and interactions with the community, right? Which not on just dollars. And while he did do mailers, he did do, the signs, but at the end of the day, if you voted for Nick, it was probably because you liked some of the legislation that he put forth, right? Or you had a conversation with him and it resonated with you, right? It likely wasn't because of a cool ad, So I mean, shout out to people for running on the left, right? Running progressive, running unapologetically, and running on their record and winning, right? I think that's something that can't be said enough. Like, you're going to get the votes if you say Black Lives Matter, if you have legislation that backs it up, if you stand up for our community, right? We know the difference between somebody token that certain people in the Blackness leadership class are propping up, and the difference between someone who actually is doing the work and in our community, right? So I think that's very clear with Nick, and I think his record is what earned him those votes.
And then in first place, we have Katie Moline, who came out with 14% of the votes in Lucas County with 19,210 votes.
Yeah. I mean, Katie Moline is this doesn't sound wrong, but she's with the most votes. I mean, she is kind of the darling of city council, right? She is not falling too far left or too far right. I think her broad appeal, all right, is it worked. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of her selling point is she has broad appeal, right? And with those Toledo roots and being from Toledo, and you don't have to worry about her being too radical. You don't have to worry about her being too conservative. I think that's why people, I think that's why she got a big chunk of the vote, and just being from Toledo, right? Yeah. And running an effective campaign, right? Yeah. I think she ran a very effective campaign as well, knocking on doors, and her messaging. I mean, Katie Moline is good with numbers, right? If there's nothing else, that campaign effectively translated that message at a time when, not many other candidates did, right? If there's somebody that's going to care about the budget and crunch those numbers the right way, Katie Moline will. So I think that's what people wanted, and that's why she one of the reasons why she performed so well.
Now, I would also like to go on record as saying when we held our Black Lives Matter forum, there was a lightning round of questions that everyone except for Katie and George Sarantu were there to answer, but everyone who won I want to say everyone who won the city council race was at
No, so of the six, we're kind of Ruth, we think alike, and so there's a couple times when I was setting something up for an alley oop later, and you already got it, and I think, and then it vice versa, we did it again.
Okay.
But yeah, that's so for people who missed the city council forum, right? It's never a good choice as a candidate to miss the Black Lives Matter forums, right? Candidates who miss those forums don't do as well in the election, right? And it translates. Of the 6 spots that were up for city council this year, 5 of those candidates were at our forum, right? So there you go.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to bring up is we had a lightning round of questions, and with the exception of Katie and George, who did not attend, everyone answered yes for the following. So having a Black Lives Matter mural, reparations for Black folk, automatic voter registration at age 18. Those were all enthusiastic.
And reparations.
Yes. Now the one that did not have everyone's vote, and this is where Sir Sandra's ability to speak up for herself, I'm all for it. Ending cash bail, all of those candidates did say that they were for it. So Sandra simply wanted more information about it. And so we did forward some information over to her. I haven't had a chance to ask her again whether or not she would be for ending cash bail. But these are all issues that were brought up at the forum that we will be holding them accountable for after some of the dust settles. So early January when they're appointed.
Yeah, Katie was there, but she missed the lightning round.
Right.
She left early. So
okay.
So yeah, that's
we have time for one more break, and then we'll come back and talk on a bit more of a statewide.
The next election.
Yes. Alrighty. So hold on for 1 second. We will be right back.
If you can ride a bike without falling, then you're good to go. Bike Rides Matter, it's a community bike group. We get together for fun, fitness, and fellowship. We ride weekly. Right now we got a Tuesday ride where we ride on the UT Trail. We do Saturday right here at Uptown Green. That's our glow roll Saturday night. It was something I was already doing with my daughter, just riding bikes, and we just decided it would be cool to add the community because we were just finding ways to make fun given the situation. Being that everything was closed down and options were limited, bike riding is one of those things you can do without any restrictions.
You get to make new friends and just like interact with people, especially during COVID. You still like have your mask on and stuff, but it's still good to like see people.
It's a cool way to stay fit. We talk while we riding, we got music while we riding. I've met quite a few new friends and new people. I made some real cool connections throughout the city. Take advantage of the time you have. Take advantage of this pandemic. I know it's a lot of restrictions, but you can be creative and find new ways to have fun, one of which is this right here.
And we're back. Are we back?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So this Friday.
Last Friday.
No, last Friday. Thank you.
It's been a long week already.
So yeah. Let's talk about. So we have the next election. All right. This is, I guess, the election recap and forecast. All right. So we have a Senate race coming up. Rob Portman, who you've seen us protest in front of his office dozens of times over the last 6 years, is retiring. Yay! All right. Yeah. This I guess you could say the climate has not been conducive for moderate Republicans. So
that means that we're getting a whole new crop of candidates.
Yeah, we're getting we're getting a new senator in 2022 for Ohio. All right. We have Sherrod Brown currently, who will become the senior senator.
Okay.
I know they call it the junior senators. I don't know if they call it senior, but anyway,
I don't either.
So since Sherrod Brown has been pretty progressive, right, and it's been a fighter for working class people, but on the Republican side, it is wild, right? Like there's Josh Mandel, like there's the worst of the Republican rhetoric has just been, it's like they're trying to out-Trump each other, right? And it's been pretty tough. On the Democratic side, I believe there's a councilman from the city of Cleveland that's running. I'm sorry, I forget his name right now. There is the congressman, Tim Ryan, from around the Youngstown area, is kind of is moving forward like the endorsed Democrat, right? The establishment candidate, I'll put it that way. You may remember Tim Ryan for his, he was in the race for president a while back in 2020 before it got too heated. But then we have also Morgan Harper. Morgan Harper was in Toledo last Friday, and I actually had an opportunity to introduce her to Toledoans. She spent some time on the picket line with those who are on strike. And before we talk about how that went, why don't we go ahead and play her rollout?
Morgan Harper.
Morgan Harper. Morgan Harper.
Well, speaking of political change, Morgan Harper. Her name is Morgan Harper. She sat down and chopped it up with me, and I've seen personally in public and not in public the work that she puts in for our people.
I'm Morgan Harper, and I'm running for U.S. Senate as a Democrat for Ohio to offer a new voice, a voice from and for the people. Central Ohio took care of me as a newborn with an uncertain future. The community found me a foster home as an infant and a family to raise me on the East Side. I won scholarships to attend college and law school. I went on to work at the Consumer Protection Agency, founded during the Obama administration.
The first ever independent consumer watchdog.
We won billions of dollars back for people who got ripped off by big banks. I've been taking on big tech, trying to break up multinational monopolies that have been crushing workers, small businesses, and threatening our democracy. Here at home, we've been organizing communities left behind.
I'm here. I actually came today
to get political power back on our side. We mobilized our community to protect the most vulnerable from the pandemic.
To get as many people as possible vaccinated.
Ohio needs fresh, new leadership in Washington and a new game plan.
Hold me accountable.
Built from the ground up, door by door, block by block. It's time for an Ohio where a woman's right to choose is always protected, and we keep our streets safe from gun violence.
Prop 22.
Where workers get paid what we deserve, and where we finally achieve racial justice. They're counting Ohio out. They're counting me out, but they don't know the power that lies in you and the fight that lies in me.
When African Americans vote in large numbers in Ohio, Ohio votes Democratic.
Yes.
And when they don't come to the polls, Ohio votes Republican.
Yes.
What's going to happen?
I'm Morgan Harper, and I'm running for the United States Senate.
Yo, that every time I see that ad, it gives me chills, yo. Like that does it for me. Like, yo, that ad is fire.
I'm a fan of the ad, okay?
Like,
and I was a fan of the ad before I even knew that Morgan Harper was coming to Toledo. And to see her in person, I think is to feel passion. I think for someone who I have made it a point to stay away from political conversations for the most part, just as a way of protecting my peace, because I know that it has been just a whirlwind. Every time I turn on the news, it's just getting sucked into it and begging to find a way out of it. And so I stay away from it for the most part. But I still just have an ear for it. But Morgan, I think, has the type of passion that makes you want to get involved again, that kind of lights that fire again, that makes you realize that it's not all just a bunch of just it's not just a bunch of people who are not rooted in the community who are making all of these decisions. There's an opportunity to put someone in a position of power who knows the hard work of being an activist, who knows the hard work of running a protest, who knows the hard work of fighting the good fight for everyday people.
challenging power.
For challenging power, yeah, that
Right.
like wants to be held accountable. I look forward to seeing and bearing witness to the shift in energy that Morgan brings. It reminds me a lot of AOC, and it reminds me a lot of Stacey Abrams, that kind of slow build that pops and changes the dynamic. I think that that's what we're seeing, because Morgan did run against Joyce Beatty. What was that, 2 years ago? A year ago?
Like a year ago. Yeah.
A
And
year ago.
I get Obama vibes, but like not President Obama vibes, like Senator Obama vibes, like like state senator Obama vibes, right? Like with a very populist message that was all encompassing for the people, right? That was he campaigned he campaigned to the left of Hillary Clinton, right? In 2008, and when he was running for senator, it was a pretty radical idea, right? For him to be in the Senate. I think he was the third Black man to ever be in the Senate, and the first one in like 100 years, right? And did so kind of as an unapologetic organizer, right? And as somebody who ran on a track record of challenging power, right? I think it's easy for us to get confused. Well, it's easy for us to forget. What happened most recently is always what's most recent in our memory, but we forget, right? Like 2004, right? Obama, right? That's what I mean when I say I get Obama vibes, right? From that crop, right? Of organizing activism and challenging power, right?
When you initially brought that up, I was thinking of like billionaire Obama.
Right. No.
Running downstairs in his shorts because there was a fight outside of his apartment in Chicago, Obama. Like,
right. No, I'm talking about like when Sasha and Malaya were like
infants,
babies. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, there's.
I'm talking about Obama when Michelle still made more than him, right? Like that Obama. Okay. Like, right. And yeah, when he was just a skinny kid with a funny name, right? That had a track record of challenging power, right? And so like I'm just gonna come out and say it. There are people across the state, people who are part of the Democratic establishment, that have an issue with Morgan Harper because she's challenging power. They have a problem with the fact that she challenged Joyce Beatty, right? Some of you may remember, I don't know if I should do this name drop, but I am, just because it's a well-known fact, right? Ernie Davis, who managed Paula's campaign, right? Managed Joyce Beatty's campaign, right? Paula Hicks Hudson, right? When she ran, a lot of us, became friends with him. And so, like, there is some people just don't like it, right? And I think this goes back to what we opened with our
what does that name drop? How does that name drop apply?
So people who are, I guess, maybe friends still with those in the establishment, right, may, are hesitate, right? But like one thing about the establishment is this sticks together.
They established for a reason.
Right, exactly. And they try to make people pay who challenge their power, right? And who are audacious enough to, challenge and even challenging power in itself is something that's a win, right? Like, I saw Joyce Beatty be more like, I saw a more activist, standing up for the people, more radical Joyce Beatty after her, election with Morgan Harper. That's for sure. Definitely. You know what I mean? And so sometimes, I think there's a lot of benefits that folks that are in part of the establishment don't understand and don't see, just because they don't like their power being challenged, right? They don't, and specifically people run into the left of a candidate that's already seen as left of center, and so I think that this is exactly when we talk about how our voter engagement is so low, right? And we talk about why. It's because people don't see their material conditions changing with their vote. Right. They don't feel like they're going to gain or lose anything based on their vote. This particular next election, especially this primary, which I believe is slated for May of 2022, is a real game changer, right? We have the opportunity to put I think this would be the 5th or 6th Black person in the Senate ever. And I think this would be the 3rd Black woman, right? Carol Moseley Braun, Kamala Harris, and potentially Joyce Beatty, right? So I think there's been 8. It was a little run there after Obama, right? There were people like Tim Scott, who was a Republican. There was Roland Burris. I forget Cory Booker. Cory Booker is a senator. He's light skinned, but he's still Black, right? But nonetheless, right, the Senate is so white. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. Yes. Right? Change happens much slower in the Senate. Like, the Senate is everybody gets two senators, no matter the population, no matter the diversity of your state. Right. And so look, Cory Booker is Black. We have who's the brother from Georgia that just won? Name's escaping me. It's been a long day. But Raphael Warnock, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Raphael Warnock just won recently. But there's a shift, right? But still, we're talking 2 Black people out of 100. Right. You know what I mean? It's really important that we have a progressive, and we have a chance to do that. So Morgan came to Toledo, and she's campaigning, and we have an opportunity to put her in office, right? We talked about the past elections on the mayoral and city council, but now we're looking at a federal change that we can make, and we can put one of us, a fellow organizer and activist, in that position.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said,
I think
Let's
it's
wrap it up.
time for us to wrap it up. Let's see. Do you have 5 minutes of heat?
What happens to a raisin in the sun? Do you know? You know the next line?
Does it fester like a sore?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Or
next line.
does it? Or does it? Does it fester like a sore? Or does it? Oh God,
Oh, come on now.
I'm going blank. It's been a long day.
You gonna make
Or like
Langston Hughes?
syrup and sappy, or does it something like that? Syrup and sappy. We are definitely.
What happens to a dream deferred? How about that?
Okay.
Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or does it fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?
Does it explode? Now, Harlem by Langston Hughes.
Yes. Talk about what happens to a raisin in the sun. Jeez, it's been a long day, y'all. Alrighty,
Yo,
at the
you know
end,
exactly what I was talking about, though.
of course I did. The most famous poem ever. Oh my gosh, guys! At the end of every meeting, we end with our solidarity pledge. Our solidarity pledge is our promise not only to ourselves but to each other to continue.
We miss you, Jody.
We miss you, Jody. We miss you, Brother Washington.
We miss you, Brother Washington.
Oh my gosh! But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So please, if you can, repeat after me. Say, I,
your
name,
Julian,
pledge to strive.
Pledge to strive.
To love my brothers and my sisters.
To love my brothers and my sisters.
As I love myself.
As I love myself.
I. Say your name.
Julian.
Pledge to strive.
Pledge to strive.
To study to improve myself.
To study to improve myself.
Spiritually.
Mentally.
Morally. And physically. For the benefit of myself. My family. And my people. I. Say your name.
Julian.
Pledge to strive.
To
be a part of the solution. The process. And not the problem. I. Say your name.
Julian.
Pledge to strive. To give all that
I can spare.
Of my time. My strength. And energy. To achieve. The above said. Give yourself a round of applause. All righty. And
remember, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And all lives won't matter until all Black lives matter. Justice or else. Peace. Don't forget to read James Baldwin.
And Toni Morrison.